Well, hello again sports fans. It's a bit of a mixed bag today. My Z84 went missing about 2 weeks ago during a trimming flight. I was recording the video on my headset but not wearing it. When I watched the video I found there was a lot of breakup and it actually cut out probably 10 seconds before the plane went in, so the search area was quite large. Anyway, this is what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. So this was actually the second flight from my Z84 that day. The previous flight I'd gone for about 15 minutes and had landed to make some adjustments to the gains. So the intention for this flight is to just stay within line of sight and pay attention to how the gain changes have affected the various autonomous modes. So I put it in balance mode and I'm climbing to around about 100 metres and just cruising around gently looking for a nice efficient throttle setting. Everything seems to be going fine until I switch it into return to home mode here, and she immediately starts losing altitude and after one or two circuits just starts heading off to the south in a direct line and clearly has no intention of coming home at all. I'll let it continue on for a little while and I switch out of return to home into balance and then back into return to home to see if that helps, but it doesn't. So I switch back to balance and fly back towards me. It's probably about half a kilometre away by now. Because I'm not wearing the headset, I don't realise that the altimeter is now showing negative values, and this is something that I've had problems with before. So I fly it a little bit closer and slip it back into return to home mode to see if anything's improved, but clearly it hasn't. It still heads off in the same direction and again starts losing altitude rapidly, and I'm forced to slip it back into balance mode and pull up before hitting the deck. So I decide to put some altitude on while I have a think about what might be happening. As I said, I'm not wearing the headset, so I don't know that I'm getting dodgy altitude readings. That little glitch was just the Mobius starting a new file. So I decided the best thing to do is bring it back closer to where I am. But I'm having trouble recognising the orientation of the wing. I can tell whether I'm gaining or losing altitude, but I really can't make out whether I'm coming closer or going further away, so I mess around for a couple of minutes trying to figure it out. I don't have much luck though, and I start to think about putting on the headset and wonder if I'll be able to get it on before the plane goes down. The problem is that if I take my eyes off the plane to put on the headset and the headset doesn't help, it's very unlikely that I'll be able to get eyes back on the plane again. So I persist a little longer, hoping that I'll see the Z84 getting bigger, but it doesn't. At about this point that I actually managed to put the headset on and realise where I am and start turning to the right for home. But the video immediately starts breaking up and I'm just getting flashes. So I'm madly nodding and twisting my head like a complete lunatic trying to improve the video, but all I'm getting is flashes. And eventually the screen just becomes completely full of static and noise, so I realise that she's probably gone down. So this is the last clear frame I got from the headset video. It shows me as being fairly close to the road, about a kilometre away and at about 100 metres of altitude. So I go for a drive to see if I can spot it from the road, but I don't have any luck. There's quite a few trees and the grass is pretty long, so it's the situation, if it's down on the ground, you're really going to have to walk over the top of it to find it. So I decided to go home and do a bit more detailed analysis of the video to see if I can pick up a course and a likely crash site. I decided that my best chance of locating it is to try and do some sort of grid search with my Venture quadcopter. So I drive out to the location where the Z84 crossed the road, park up and send the Venture off on a search mission. So the most notable feature of this paddock are the high tension power lines that cross it from right to left and droop down to probably only 25 or 30 metres from the ground. I've set the Venture up with a easy UHF radio system, which I don't think is going to be adversely affected by the proximity of the power lines, but I'm not really sure, so I'm a little bit nervous about how I approach them. It's clearly not an ideal location for an air search, but on the other hand, from a ground search point of view, it's got half a dozen Angus bulls in the paddock, as well as a whole suburb of beehives, so really couldn't have picked a more perfect place to lose a plane, really. Over the past 2 weeks I've flown about a dozen missions with the Venture in ever widening grid patterns, and this particular section of video between the road and the power lines shows the area where the Z84 was eventually found by a passing electricity linesman. I hadn't expected to see the Z84 on the live video feed, but I did expect that if I flew over it, the high definition Mobius footage would show it up when I analysed it later when I got home. This video was shot 4 days after the crash, and I haven't been able to spot the Z84 on it at all. I can only assume that the linesman picked it up sometime before I flew over this section with the Venture. Unfortunately, I don't have any details of who this linesman was or when he found it, but hopefully he'll pop back in at some stage later and I'll be able to thank him properly. So in this section of the video I'm trying to put the Venture in the same position as the Z84 was when I captured the last video frame before the crash. That object you can see flashing occasionally across the screen is the lead from the Mobius to the video switcher, which I didn't bother connecting because I was flying off the main flight camera. So the flight camera view shows that this is the line that the Z84 was coming in on, and I'm flying down that line as close as possible again with the hopes that I'll be passing over the crash site. There's the Land Rover down below, parked next to the gate. So the good news is the Z84 is back in my possession with very little damage having been done to it. The Mobius camera was completely flat and played up for a little while till I reset it, but that seems to be back in action again. And even the lithium ion pack was ejected in the crash and was 3/4 full when it came home. The only thing missing is the GPS antenna, which seems to have been ejected during the crash and not found by the linesman. But given the problems I seem to be having with the altimeter reading, I'm not sure whether that's a bad thing or a good thing. Before this flight I had actually moved the GPS antenna from the location on the wing that you can see in this photo a little bit further forward to the front of the wing to move it away from the influence of the speed controller at the rear. And this seemed to have been working for the previous couple of flights I'd had. But in the light of this latest disaster, I think I'll move it more inboard towards the fuselage to get it away from the easy UHF receiver and maybe some interference coming from that. I've been able to configure a previous generation GPS antenna to work with the F2S controller, so that'll be an interesting experiment when we next get back in the air. So once again, my sincere thanks to the anonymous linesman who dropped the plane back into the club for me. Hopefully, if he's in the area, he'll drop in at some stage to see how the plane's getting on, and I'll be able to thank him more properly for his kindness.